All right, today we are doing a full diagnostic analysis. We're not just talking about a topic, we are breaking down the invisible operating system that decides who gets heard and who gets ignored in literally any room you walk into. And this system, it runs on a code that has absolutely nothing to do with your resume or your logic, but everything to do with your primal biology. This is the architecture of perceived authority. So let's start the analysis. This quote right here, it just nails the central mechanism of the entire system. See, authority isn't something you take or you claim or you announce. It's a physical broadcast. And this idea of moving slowly, it's not about being lazy. It's a deceleration of your reaction time. It's a signal that you have so much time, so much energy, and so much control that you don't need to rush. It literally forces the world to adjust to your rhythm, not the other way around. This is the quiet, undeniable foundation of what we call kinetic authority. And here's the paradox that just derails countless careers. We're all trained to focus on that column on the left, right? Our credentials, our carefully crafted arguments, our intelligence. But in the first 4 seconds of any interaction, the primitive, survival-oriented part of the human brain, it's doing a deep scan of the column on the right. It's like a neurological X-ray. It's not reading your slides, it's reading your vagal tone, the state of your nervous system. It's not analyzing your logic, it's measuring your kinetic gravity. We call this the 4-second verdict, and it's decided long before your rational mind ever gets a word in. So the real-world result of this disconnect is a pattern I'm sure we've all seen. The competent, brilliant person who somehow just becomes invisible. This is what we call the high-performing ghost. Now, the really interesting part of this slide is the term induced status decay. This isn't a passive thing. It's an active process of self-sabotage broadcast by your own biology. Your expertise, your data, your brilliant solution, it all gets thrown out because your body is sending a contradictory signal. Just picture the smartest person in the room briefing the exec team. The ideas are perfect, but their leg is bouncing, their voice is a little too high, their eyes are darting around looking for approval. Their body is just screaming, "I am not a safe bet," and so their information gets filed as noise. Their visible anxiety has become more credible than their expertise. And here's the tragic irony at the heart of this whole pattern. For most high performers, the motivation is pure, right? They want to contribute, to add value, to be seen as helpful and full of energy. So they lean in, they speak quickly to get all their ideas out, they gesture like crazy. They offer up this flurry of activity, believing that this shows their commitment and their worth. But that very energy, that kinetic vibration, it's interpreted by the group's primitive brain as neediness. It signals a subordinate state, one that requires external validation. Your eagerness is misread as a desperate plea for approval. And in the cold, hard math of social hierarchy, anything that needs approval is disposable. By trying so hard to prove your value with activity, you're basically handing over the remote control to your own status. Your body's broadcasting a signal that forces everyone to look right past you, searching for the true anchor in the room. Okay, let's move from the problem to the system itself. This instant judgment, it's not random. It's a precise, 4-step biological audit that forms the very architecture of rank. These are the 4 phases of that 4-second verdict. First, the kinetic deceleration audit, where your speed is measured. Second, the ocular baseline phase, where your gaze is analyzed for threats. Third, spatial sovereignty, assessing how you occupy your territory. And finally, the 4th and most critical step, neurological slotting. This is where the verdict is locked in. Let's break each of these down. The audit always begins with motion. The limbic system of everyone in the room is scanning for what are called survival leaks. Rapid, jerky movements, quick head turns, fidgeting hands. These are all hallmarks of prey behavior. It signals a nervous system that's on high alert. On the flip side, moving just 10% slower than the room's average broadcasts the exact opposite. It's a signature of an apex predator. Slow, deliberate movement signals you're not threatened by the environment because, on some deep level, you are the environment. This is neurologically read as having resources to spare. You have so much safety and energy, you never need to rush. Next up, the ocular baseline. Once your movement is checked, the group's collective unconscious looks at your gaze. Are your eyes darting from person to person looking for approval or social threats? That's tunnel vision. It's a physiological stress response. Or are you holding a steady, calm, panoramic awareness of the whole space? This relaxed, wide-angle gaze is an incredibly powerful signal.
It tells observers that you don't see any threats, which in turn triggers their mirror neurons and actually generates a hormonal response of safety in them. Your stable gaze literally becomes their biological security blanket. And this slide illustrates the third phase perfectly: spatial sovereignty. On the left, you see the low status broadcast, making yourself smaller, huddling, collapsing the chest, physically shrinking as if you're apologizing for taking up space. This posture screams that you're surprised and overwhelmed by your environment. The high status signal is vertical integrity, an open chest, relaxed shoulders, occupying space without apology. This posture doesn't just react to the environment, it permits the environment to exist around it. It is a physical broadcast of absolute belonging. So here's the most crucial point, this final, irreversible phase. After auditing your movement, your gaze, and your posture, all in milliseconds, the observer's brains make their decision. They slot you into a rank. And this isn't some casual judgment, it's a powerful cognitive bias, a mental monopoly that is fiercely defended. From this moment on, everything you do is filtered through this slot. If you're slotted high, a mistake becomes a bold experiment. If you're slotted low, your breakthrough idea is just naive. This is where the system breaks. The body's verdict overrides the brain's logic. Okay, we've covered the how, so now we have to dissect the why. Why is this primitive system so powerful, even in places where logic is supposed to be king? The answer, as you might guess, is in our biology. This statement is jarring, I know, because it kind of bypasses our whole sense of morality, but it is neurologically sound. Our brains are not optimized for abstract truth, they're optimized for survival. A frantic truth teller, with all their anxious energy and rapid speech, triggers the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, and everyone watching. Their body makes us feel unsafe. A composed liar, though, with their slow movements and calm vagal tone, soothes our nervous system. Their body lowers our defenses, and the brain will choose the feeling of safety over the burden of a difficult truth, almost every single time. This preference is all governed by the law of least effort, a core principle of how our brains work. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's calories. It's a ruthlessly efficient, energy-saving machine. Trying to figure out a frantic genius is metabolically expensive. It takes actual work to sort through their chaotic signals. But following a calm presence, that's easy. Their stillness lets us outsource our own emotional regulation. It makes us feel safer, and it dramatically lowers our desire to challenge them. Choosing to trust the calm person is simply the safer, more efficient metabolic bet. But our rational mind, our neocortex, it needs a story to explain this primal choice. And that's where the heuristic of presence comes in. To deal with the cognitive dissonance of making a decision based on pure biology, we invent a justification. We don't admit to ourselves, I trust him because his slow movements calmed my amygdala. No way. Instead, we create a story. We say they have gravitas, executive presence, or leadership qualities. We build a whole rational narrative to mask the raw truth, that on a fundamental level, we are being chemically managed by the nervous system of another human being. So understanding the system is one thing, but recognizing it in action is something else entirely. Let's get into the diagnostic tools to help you identify the slotting trap when you see it. The number one sign of a slotting trap is this: the presence-performance disconnection. This is that moment where you notice that the person with the most perceived authority, the one projecting the most kinetic stability, is not the person with the most accurate information. To see this, you have to stop just listening to words and start auditing the nervous systems in the room. Observe whose body commands belief versus whose ideas actually hold water. When you see a huge gap between those two, you've just identified the disconnection. And this disconnection leads directly to the apex node paradox, a deeply dysfunctional but incredibly common dynamic in companies. On one side, you have the anchor, the apex node. They are perceived as calm, steady, in control. But in reality, they often lack the skill for the job and may even be the source of the crisis. But their calm demeanor deflects all the scrutiny. The outcome? They get the group's trust and are given more authority. Then on the other side is the expert, doing all the quiet labor. They appear anxious and subordinate because they're carrying the mental load of actually solving the problem. In reality, they're providing the logic and fixing the anchor's mistakes. Their outcome? They get the blame when things go wrong and are given orders by the very person they're propping up. This is the slotting trap in its most destructive form. So, after deconstructing this entire architecture, what's the final takeaway? How do we reframe our whole understanding of authority? You know, the popular advice is to take up space, be assertive, be dominant. But this is often a misreading of the system. That kind of action is usually just more kinetic noise, another broadcast of need. True, unshakable authority is not an action you take, it's a state of being you broadcast. It's not about forcing yourself into the environment, it's about becoming the single point of stability that the environment is forced to orient itself around. It's the difference between pushing and gravity.
And this brings us to the final, crucial diagnostic weapon. The first step is awareness. You have to recognize this powerful tendency to match the frantic energy of a panicked group, to vibrate at their frequency, to try and connect or be helpful. You have to consciously refuse. Stop reflecting the room's chaos.
And instead, you become the anchor. In any system, the point with the least amount of movement holds the most power. When you stop vibrating and instead broadcast stability, you're no longer a reflection of the group's panic. You become the solution to it. You become the external brain that manages the group's collective survival instinct.
So we've laid out the entire framework. We've gone from the paradox of the 4-second verdict, through the 4-step audit, to the biology of belief and the toxic apex node paradox. The system is no longer invisible. The final question then isn't what you should do, it's what you will now see. What will you observe in your next meeting, your next conversation, now that you have the blueprint to the hidden architecture of authority?